I'm going to tell you something about being a Navy SEAL that they don't put in the movies. It's not about the weapons, or the tactics, or the midnight insertions. It's about learning to read a room in 3 seconds flat, and knowing exactly when violence is about to happen. That skill doesn't turn off when you come home. And on a Tuesday morning in June, standing in my own hallway while 2 fake cops put their hands on my wife, that skill was the only thing keeping me from doing something I'd regret. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Tell me where you're watching from, and maybe has anything like this happened in your city or state. My name is Marcus Webb, 38 years old, retired SEAL, now working private security consulting. My wife Sarah is a pediatric nurse, night shifts, mostly, which means our schedules are inverted half the time. We bought our house in Meadowbrook Estates 4 years ago. 3 bedrooms, quarter-acre lot. The kind of place where you're supposed to raise kids and grow old. We were trying for the kids' part. Sarah had just started her 2nd round of IVF. The HOA seemed normal at first. Reasonable rules. No cars on blocks. Keep your lawn maintained. Garbage cans out of sight except collection day. Standard suburban stuff. The monthly fee was $85. I paid it on auto pay and forgot about it. Then, about 8 months ago, the board elections happened. Linda Mercer won president by 17 votes. I didn't vote. I was in Dubai on a 3-week contract. Sarah voted for the other guy, some retired teacher named Phil who'd been on the board for years. Phil sent a gracious concession email. Linda sent a 4-page PDF outlining her vision for community excellence. The fine started in October. First one was $150 for non-compliant mailbox ornamentation. We had a small bronze eagle on top of the post. My dad gave it to me before he passed, Navy tradition. The fine notice cited Section 7.3.2. Mailbox decorations must conform to pre-approved historical or seasonal themes. I'd never heard of Section 7.3.2. I checked our original HOA docs. It wasn't there. I ignored it. 2 weeks later, $300 for unapproved exterior lighting. Our porch light. The same porch light that was there when we bought the place. The notice included a photo taken at night, showing our house circled in red Sharpie. I called the HOA hotline. Got voicemail. Left a message. No callback. Third fine. $500 for hazardous lawn ornamentation. They meant Sarah's garden gnome. A 6-inch ceramic gnome holding a watering can. Very hazardous. That one I didn't ignore. I showed up at the November HOA meeting, first Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. at the community center. About 30 people in folding chairs. Linda Mercer sat at a folding table up front with 4 other board members. Dale Pritchard, VP, Susan Coe, Treasurer, Ron Delgado, Secretary, and Brenda Watts, Member-at-Large. Linda was 50-something, blonde highlights, the kind of tight smile that never reaches the eyes. She wore a blazer with the HOA logo embroidered on the pocket. When I approached the table during open comments, she didn't look up from her laptop. Marcus Webb, for 128 Sycamore, I said. I've received 3 fines in the last 6 weeks. None of them reference rules that exist in my HOA governing documents. The Architectural Review Committee updated the guidelines in September, Linda said, still typing. All homeowners were notified. I never received notification. We sent an email. I never got an email. She finally looked up. Then you should check your spam folder. Next speaker, please. I'm not done. Your 3 minutes are up, Mr. Webb. She nodded toward Dale Pritchard, a thick-necked guy in his 60s with a retired cop vibe. He stood up, crossed his arms. I knew the posture. Intimidation 101. I held Linda's gaze for 5 seconds. Then I smiled, nodded, and walked out. Sarah was waiting in the car. She saw my face. That bad? She asked. I've dealt with warlords with better people skills, I said. We laughed about it on the drive home. But I pulled the HOA docs that night and read every word. No Section 7.3.2. No mention of an Architectural Review Committee. The last amendment was dated 2019, 2 years before Linda joined the board. I drafted an email to the HOA challenging the fines and requesting copies of the updated guidelines. I cited the specific sections of our governing documents. I kept it professional. Sent it at 11 p.m. Linda replied at 6:43 a.m. Your objections are noted. Fine stand. Failure to pay within 30 days will result in lien proceedings. That was it. One line. Sarah read it over my shoulder while pouring her coffee. She had that look, the one she gets when a hospital administrator overrules her on a patient. Quiet anger. They can't actually put a lien on our house for a garden gnome, she said. Legally? No. But they can make us spend $5,000 on a lawyer to prove it. So what do? I looked at the bronze eagle on our mailbox, visible through the kitchen window. My dad's eagle. We pay the fines, I said, and we document everything. Sarah squeezed my hand. I'm sorry. Not your fault. But it felt like losing ground. And I don't lose ground. I paid the $950 in fines that afternoon. I removed the eagle, the gnome, and swapped our porch light for the cheapest builder-grade fixture I could find. I took photos of everything, before, after, receipts, timestamps. For 2 months, nothing happened. We thought it was over. Then Sarah got the letter. It arrived on a Tuesday in January, regular mail, HOA return address. I was home, rare for a weekday, but I'd just finished a contract and had a week off before the next one. Sarah was on nights, so she was asleep upstairs. I opened the envelope. Notice of violation, unauthorized vehicle storage. Section 9.1.4 prohibits storage of commercial, recreational, or non-operational vehicles in resident driveways. Your vehicle, 2018 Honda CR-V, LIC. 7TJG 392, has been observed parked in driveway for periods exceeding 48 consecutive hours, indicating non-operational status. Fine, $1,000. Payment due within 15 days. I read it 3 times. Sarah's CR-V. The car she drove to work 5 nights a week. Non-operational. I walked outside. The CR-V sat in our driveway, exactly where Sarah parked it every morning after her shift. I checked the odometer against my phone log. She'd driven it 8 hours ago. I took photos. I checked the HOA docs again. Section 9.1 covered vehicles, but 9.1.4 didn't exist. The section jumped from 9.1.3 to 9.2. I called the HOA hotline. Voicemail. I left a detailed message, cited the discrepancy, requested a callback. No response. I sent an email. Detailed, professional, with photos and documentation attached. Linda replied 4 hours later. Violation confirmed. Fine stands. That night, Sarah came downstairs around 6 p.m., groggy from sleeping all day. I showed her the letter. She read it twice, then looked at me. This is insane. Yeah. What do they want? That was the question. I'd been asking myself the same thing. The fines were escalating. $150, $300, $500, now $1,000. But they weren't consistent. They weren't following any logical pattern. It felt personal. I think Linda's trying to force us out, I said. Why? No idea. But I was going to find out. I spent the next week digging. I pulled property records, tax filings, HOA meeting minutes going back 3 years. I found something interesting. Linda Mercer had been elected president with 142 votes. Total homeowner count in Meadowbrook Estates, 267. Voter turnout, 53%. The previous election, Phil's last win, had 71% turnout. I cross-referenced the voter list with property records. 18 of the addresses that voted for Linda were rentals, absentee landlords who didn't live in the community. HOA rules said only primary residents could vote. I documented it. Screenshots, spreadsheets, highlighted discrepancies. Then I looked into Linda herself. Public records showed she'd bought her house in Meadowbrook in 2020, cash purchase, $340,000. Before that, she'd lived in a condo in Phoenix. Before that, Reno. Before that, Sacramento. She moved every 2 to 3 years. Each time, she served on an HOA board. Each time, there were complaints, online reviews, news articles, small claims filings. One article from a Sacramento neighborhood blog called her a nightmare in a blazer. I printed everything. Sarah came home that morning, saw the papers spread across the dining table. You've been up all night. Linda Mercer is a professional, I said. Professional what? HOA tyrant. She moves into a community, takes over the board, runs it like a fiefdom, then moves on. I found 4 neighborhoods in 3 states. Same pattern. Sarah sat down, scanning the documents. Why? Power trip. Control. Maybe she gets a kick out of it. I tapped the voter list. She rigged the election. Absentee landlords aren't supposed to vote, but 18 of them did. All for her. Can we report that? To who? The HOA police. I leaned back. We need to prove she coordinated it. Right now it's just a list. So what do we do? I looked at the $1,000 fine notice, still sitting on the table. We don't pay this one, I said. We wait and see what she does next. Sarah hesitated. You think she'll escalate? I know she will. And then, I smiled. Then we let her hang herself. The next move came faster than I expected. 4 days after I refused to pay the fine, Sarah was pulling out of the driveway for her shift when a Meadowbrook patrol vehicle, a white Ford Explorer with a magnetic HOA logo on the door, blocked her in. Dale Pritchard climbed out, clipboard in hand. Sarah called me from the driveway. I was in the garage, organizing gear. Marcus, Dale's here. He says he's documenting the violation. I walked out. Dale was taking photos of the CRV from multiple angles, making a show of writing notes. He saw me and nodded. Marcus. Dale. Just doing my job. Vehicle's been here 5 days straight. He tapped his clipboard. That's a second violation. Another 1,000. Sarah drives that car every night? I said. It's operational. Doesn't look operational to me. Because it's parked? Because it hasn't moved. It moved 8 hours ago. Dale shrugged. I've been watching. Haven't seen it move. That word, watching, landed like a fist. I kept my expression neutral. You've been watching our house. I've been monitoring compliance. It's my job as VP. He handed me a printed notice, duplicate of the first one, but with second violation, stamped across the top in red. You've got 15 days. After that, we initiate lien proceedings. He climbed back into the Explorer and drove off. Sarah stood next to me, keys in hand, face pale. He's been watching our house, she said quietly. Yeah, that's legal. It's creepy, but yeah. He's on HOA business, public street. I looked at the notice. They're escalating. Sarah left for work. I went back inside and did something I should have done weeks ago. I installed cameras. 4 of them. Front door, driveway, backyard, side gate. Wireless, cloud storage, motion alerts to my phone. I had them up in 90 minutes. Then I called my buddy Jake Ryland, former Marine Raider, now a private investigator in San Diego. Marcus, it's been a minute, Jake said. You in trouble? HOA trouble. He laughed. You're kidding. I wish. I walked him through it. The fines, Linda's history, Dale's surveillance. Jake listened without interrupting, which meant he was taking it seriously. You want me to dig into Linda Mercer? He asked. Deep as you can go. Financials, associates, litigation history. Anything that explains why she's targeting us. Give me a week. Thanks, Jake. Hey, Marcus, watch your back. HOA psychos are a different breed. They've got nothing to lose and all day to make your life hell. He wasn't wrong. That night, around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert, front door. I pulled up the camera feed. A figure in a dark hoodie stood on our porch, leaning close to the door. Then they spray-painted something and walked off. I was downstairs in 15 seconds, out the door in 20. The street was empty. I checked the door. In red spray paint, dripping and uneven. Pay up or get out. I took photos, checked the camera footage. The figure's face was hidden, but the build and gait looked male, average height. Not Dale, too slim. Not Linda, someone else. I called the police. Non-emergency line, because I knew how this would go. Officer Ramirez showed up 40 minutes later, took a report, photographed the door. Any idea who did this? HOA dispute, I said. I showed him the fine notices, explained the escalation. He nodded, unimpressed. You can file for a restraining order if you think it's harassment, but vandalism like this, without a clear suspect, it's tough to pursue. I have video. He looked at the footage on my phone. Can't see a face. Could be anyone. It's connected to the HOA fines. Maybe. But we'd need evidence linking a specific person. He handed me a case number on a card. File a report with your insurance. If it happens again, call us. He left. I stood on the porch, looking at the red paint, and felt that old familiar weight settle in. The same weight I'd felt in Kandahar, in Ramadi, in a dozen other places where the rules didn't apply and the bad guys knew it. Sarah came home at 7 a.m., saw the door, and stopped in her tracks. "Oh my God. It's handled," I said. "Police report filed. I've got it on camera." "Marcus, this is..." She looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen before, fear. "This is getting scary." "I know. Maybe we should just pay the fines. Move. Get out of here." I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her we'd pack up, sell the house, start over somewhere sane. But I thought about my dad's eagle, about the garden gnome, about Dale Pritchard taking photos of our car like we were criminals. I thought about Linda Mercer's tight smile and her one-line emails. "If we run, she wins," I said. "And she'll do this to the next family. And the one after that." Sarah closed her eyes, nodded. "Okay. But promise me, no violence. We do this the right way. I promise." I spent that morning scrubbing the paint off the door. It took 2 hours and a gallon of solvent. When I finished, the wood was clean, but the message was still burned into my brain. Pay up or get out. That afternoon, Linda sent an email to the entire neighborhood. "Dear Meadowbrook residents, it has come to the board's attention that certain homeowners are refusing to comply with community standards, creating blight and safety hazards. We urge all residents to report violations promptly. Remember, a strong community requires participation from everyone. Linda Mercer, HOA president." No names. But everyone knew. That evening, our neighbor 2 doors down, Tom Callahan, retired firefighter, good guy, knocked on our door. He looked uncomfortable. "Hey, Marcus. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Linda's been calling around, telling people you're problem residents. She's asking folks to keep an eye on your place, report anything unusual. She's organizing surveillance." Basically, yeah. Tom hesitated. "Look, I'm not playing that game. But some of the others, Dale's got a few buddies on the block. They're true believers. Thanks for the warning. You need anything, let me know." He glanced at the door, where a faint outline of red paint was still visible despite my scrubbing. "This is bullshit, man. Linda's out of control." After he left, I sat down and made a list. Allies, Tom, maybe a few others. Enemies, Linda, Dale, probably Susan Coe, and Ron Delgado. Brenda Watts was a question mark. She rarely spoke at meetings. I needed more allies. And I needed leverage. Jake called 2 days later. "Marcus, your HOA president is a piece of work. Tell me." Linda Mercer, born Linda Granger, Phoenix, 1971. Divorced twice. No kids. She's got a history of small claims suits, mostly HOA related. Neighbors suing her suing neighbors. She was treasurer of an HOA in Sacramento in 2016. The board fired her after an audit found $12,000 in unaccounted expenses. No charges filed, but the HOA had to hire a lawyer to get their money back. She's done this before. Multiple times. Reno, Sacramento, Tucson, now you. She moves in, takes over, bleeds the HOA dry, moves on. I pulled financials. She's got no steady income, but she's buying houses in cash. My guess? She's skimming HOA funds, flipping properties, or both. Can you prove it? Not yet. I'd need access to Meadowbrook's books. But I found something else. Jake paused. She's got a business partner. Guy named Victor Kress. He's a property manager based in Phoenix. Runs a company called Apex Community Solutions. They consult for HOAs. Basically, they come in, take over management, and jack up fees. I found 3 neighborhoods where Linda was president and Apex took over the management contract within 6 months. She's setting up a takeover. Looks like it. Apex charges triple what most management companies do. If they take over Meadowbrook, your $85 monthly fee becomes $250, easy. And Linda gets a cut. I felt the pieces clicking into place. The fines, the harassment, the pressure, it wasn't personal. It was business. Linda was destabilizing the HOA, creating chaos, so she could swoop in with Apex as the solution. Jake, I need everything you've got on Apex and Victor Kress. Contracts, complaints, financials. I'll send it over. Marcus, be careful. If Linda's working with Kress, she's got resources. These guys played dirty. So do I. That night, I sat down with Sarah and showed her everything. The documents, Jake's findings, the pattern. She read in silence, her nurse's brain processing it all. So she's running a scam, Sarah said. Yeah. And we're in the way. We're the test case. If she can crush us, she can crush anyone. Sarah looked at me. What's the plan? We expose her. At the next HOA meeting, we show the neighborhood what she's doing, force a vote, get her removed. You think they'll believe us? If we have proof, they will. And if they don't? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. The next HOA meeting was 3 weeks away. I spent every day preparing, organizing documents, drafting a presentation, reaching out to neighbors. Tom Callahan agreed to back me up. So did 2 other families who'd been hit with bogus fines. But Linda wasn't idle. 1 week before the meeting, Sarah came home from her shift and found an envelope taped to our door. Inside, a letter from Meadowbrook Community Patrol, signed by Dale Pritchard. Due to ongoing violations and disruptive behavior, the board has authorized enhanced monitoring of your property. Patrol officers will conduct regular inspections to ensure compliance. Failure to cooperate will result in immediate fines and legal action. Patrol officers, Sarah said. What does that even mean? I looked at the letter, at Dale's signature, and felt a cold knot form in my gut. It means they're escalating again. How much worse can it get? I didn't answer. Because I'd seen worse. I'd seen what happens when people with a little bit of power decide the rules don't apply to them. And I knew exactly where this was headed. The patrol officers arrived on a Saturday morning. I was in the garage, working on my truck, when I heard Sarah's voice from inside the house, sharp, alarmed. I dropped the wrench and moved. 2 men stood on our porch. Both wore black tactical pants, black polo shirts with embroidered badges that said Meadowbrook Security, and utility belts with handcuffs, batons, and pepper spray. One was mid-30s, buzz-cut, stocky. The other was older, maybe 50, with a gray goatee and the kind of casual arrogance that comes from wearing a uniform. Sarah stood in the doorway, blocking them. I already told you, my husband isn't home. You need to leave. Ma'am, we have authorization from the HOA to inspect your property, Buzzcut said. He held up a clipboard. We need to verify compliance with community standards. You're not coming inside. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Goatee said. That's when I stepped into the doorway behind Sarah. Both men saw me and hesitated. I'm 6'2", 210 pounds, and I wasn't smiling. Gentlemen, I said, can I help you? Buzzcut recovered first. We're with Meadowbrook Security. The HOA has authorized us to conduct property inspections. You got a warrant? We don't need a warrant. This is HOA business. You're not law enforcement. You're private security, which means you need my permission to enter my property. I looked at their badges, their gear, and I don't give permission. Goatee stepped forward. Sir, if you refuse to comply, we're authorized to issue an immediate fine and report you to the board for obstruction. Report away. Sir, leave. Now. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Buzzcut glanced at Goatee, and they both stepped back. Buzzcut scribbled something on his clipboard. This will be noted in our report, he said. They walked to their vehicle, a white Ford Explorer, same model as Dale's, with Meadowbrook Security in vinyl lettering on the doors. They drove off. Sarah closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. What the hell was that? Intimidation. They looked like cops. That's the point. I pulled out my phone and called Jake. Linda just hired private security. 2 guys in tactical gear, fake badges, the whole setup. That's legal. Technically, yeah. Private security can wear uniforms, carry non-lethal gear. But impersonating law enforcement is a felony. If they told anyone they were cops, actual cops, that's a crime. Did they? Not explicitly, but they're walking the line. I looked out the window. I need you to find out who they are. Company name, licensing, any complaints. On it. After I hung up, Sarah said, "This is insane. She hired fake cops to harass us. She's trying to scare us into selling. It's working." I pulled her close. "We're not selling." But I saw the fear in her eyes, and I hated Linda Mercer for putting it there. Comment below, would you fight back legally or strike harder? That afternoon, I installed 2 more cameras, one covering the front porch, one covering the side yard. Then I sent an email to the HOA board, CCing every homeowner address I could find. This morning, 2 individuals claiming to represent Meadowbrook Security attempted to enter my home without permission or legal authority. They wore uniforms designed to resemble law enforcement and carried weapons. I have documented this incident and reported it to local police. I am formally requesting that the board provide documentation of any contract with a security company, including licensing and insurance information. If the board has authorized individuals to conduct warrantless property inspections, I am demanding an immediate vote to rescind that authorization. I hit send. Linda replied within an hour to the full list. Mr. Webb's characterization is false and defamatory. Meadowbrook Security is a licensed firm contracted to assist with compliance monitoring. No one attempted to enter his home. His continued obstruction and hostility are creating an unsafe environment for our community. Tom Callahan called me 20 minutes later. "Marcus, half the neighborhood is freaking out. People are asking if Linda really hired security to go door to door." She did. That's legal. Barely. This is going to blow up at the meeting. Good. But Linda wasn't done. 2 days later, Sarah's car was towed. She came out Tuesday morning to leave for her shift, and the CRV was gone. I found the notice tucked under our doormat. Vehicle removed for noncompliance with HOA parking regulations. Towed to Meadowbrook Impound, 1247, Industrial Boulevard release fee, $850. I called the number on the notice. A bored voice answered, "Meadowbrook Impound. You towed my wife's car from our driveway. Authorization from the HOA. You can pick it up anytime. Cash or card. $850. Who authorized it? The HOA. I need a name. Linda Mercer, HOA president." I hung up and called Linda. Voicemail. I left a message, kept it professional. "Linda, you towed my wife's car from our private driveway. That's theft. I'm giving you 1 hour to return it, or I'm calling the police." She didn't call back. I called the police. Officer Ramirez again. He sounded tired. "Mr. Webb, if the HOA authorized the tow, it's a civil matter. You'll have to take it up with them. They stole my wife's car. They say it's a compliance issue. Unless you can prove the tow was illegal, we can't intervene. So they can just take our property? I'm sorry. You'll need to talk to a lawyer." I drove to Meadowbrook Impound. It was a gravel lot behind a chain-link fence, a dozen cars scattered around. A guy in a stained t-shirt sat in a portable office. "I'm here for the CRV," I said. $850. I handed him my card. He ran it, printed a receipt, and tossed me the keys. Bay 7. I found the CRV, checked it over. No damage. But when I opened the door, I found a notice on the dashboard. Final warning. Remove vehicle from property within 48 hours or face additional fines and legal action. I took a photo, drove the car home, and parked it in the garage. Sarah was waiting. They towed my car. I got it back. "Marcus, this is..." She stopped, shook her head. "I can't do this anymore. I can't go to work wondering if they're going to tow my car, or break into our house, or they're not going to break in. You don't know that." She was right. I didn't. That night, I sat in the living room with all the lights off, watching the camera feeds on my phone. Around 1 a.m., a car rolled past our house, slowed, kept going. 10 minutes later, it came back. White Ford Explorer. Meadowbrook Security. I watched it circle the block 3 times, then disappear. They were watching us. Jake called the next morning. "Marcus, I found your security company. Meadowbrook Security is a shell. Registered 3 months ago, no employees, no office. The address on file is a UPS store. Who owns it? Victor Kress. Same guy who runs Apex Community Solutions. So Linda and Kress set up a fake security company to harass us. Looks like it. And here's the kicker. I pulled Kress's background. He's got a record. Fraud, embezzlement, served 18 months in Arizona back in 2008. He's been running scams ever since. Send me everything. Already did. Marcus, these people are criminals. You need to be careful. I am. But I wasn't. Not really. Because I was angry, and anger makes you sloppy. The HOA meeting was in 5 days. I spent every waking hour preparing. I printed Jake's findings, organized them into a presentation, rehearsed my speech. Tom Callahan agreed to second any motions I made. 2 other families, Helen Ortiz and Jeff Marston, said they'd speak up about their own bogus fines. I thought we had a chance. Then, the day before the meeting, Sarah came home early from her shift. She was crying. They called my hospital, she said. I went cold. Who did? Someone claiming to be from the HOA. They told my supervisor I was under investigation for criminal activity related to our house. They said I might be a liability. What did your supervisor say? She laughed it off. She knows it's bullshit. But Marcus, they called my job. They're trying to get me fired. I pulled her close, felt her shaking. And in that moment, I made a decision. I was done playing defense. Pack a bag, I said. What? You're staying at your sister's until this is over. Marcus. Sarah, they're escalating. Next step is physical. I'm not risking you. She started to argue, then stopped. She saw my face. What are you going to do? What I should have done from the start. She packed a bag. I drove her to her sister's place in Orange County, 2 hours south. When I got back to Meadowbrook, it was almost midnight. I parked in the garage, walked inside, and checked the cameras. White Ford Explorer, parked across the street. I smiled. Let them watch. The next morning, I did something Linda Mercer wasn't expecting. I went to the HOA meeting early, 2 hours early, and I brought a lawyer. Her name was Rebecca Chow, a real estate attorney I'd worked with on a contract dispute a few years back. Sharp, no nonsense, the kind of person who reads a room and finds the weakness in 30 seconds. I'd called her the night before, walked her through everything, and she'd agreed to attend as an observer. You're not paying me to speak, she'd said. Just to sit there and look official. Sometimes that's enough. We arrived at the community center at 5 p.m. The meeting started at 7. The room was empty except for a janitor setting up folding chairs. I picked a seat in the front row, dead center. Rebecca sat next to me, briefcase open, legal pad out. You think Linda will show early? Rebecca asked. She'll want to control the room. Yeah, she'll show. At 5:30, Linda walked in. She saw me, saw Rebecca, and her smile faltered for half a second. Then it snapped back into place. Marcus, she said. You're early. Wanted to make sure I got a good seat. She glanced at Rebecca. And you are? Rebecca Chow? Mr. Webb's attorney. Linda's smile tightened. This is a community meeting. Attorneys aren't necessary. I'm just here to observe. Linda turned to me. This is intimidation, Marcus. No, I said. This is transparency. She walked to the front table, set down her laptop, and pulled out her phone. I watched her type something, hit send. 30 seconds later, Dale Pritchard walked in, followed by Susan Coe and Ron Delgado. They all looked at me, then at Rebecca. The trap was set. By 6:45, the room was packed. 50, maybe 60 people, biggest turnout I'd seen. Tom Callahan gave me a nod from the back row. Helen Ortiz and Jeff Marston sat near the middle. I recognized a few other faces, neighbors I'd waved to but never really talked to. Linda called the meeting to order at 7:02. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We have a full agenda tonight, so let's get started. She glanced at me. But first, I want to address some recent disruptions. There have been emails circulating with false and defamatory claims about the board and our security contractor. I want to be clear. Everything we do is in compliance with our governing documents and state law. If anyone has concerns, they can submit them in writing, and we'll respond in due course. I raised my hand. Marcus, this isn't open comments yet. I have a point of order. Linda sighed. Go ahead. I stood. You just mentioned your security contractor. Can you provide documentation of that contract? Licensing, insurance, scope of work. That's not a point of order. It's a request for transparency. Homeowners have a right to know who the board is hiring and what they're authorized to do. Murmurs rippled through the room. Linda's smile vanished. We're not required to disclose operational details at a public meeting. Actually, you are, Rebecca said, standing. California's Civil Code Section 5200 requires HOAs to make contracts available for inspection upon request. Mr. Webb made that request in writing 5 days ago. You haven't responded. Linda's face went red. Who are you? Rebecca Chow, attorney. And unless you'd like to discuss this further in front of everyone, I suggest you table this agenda item and provide the requested documents within the statutory time frame. The room went silent. Linda looked at Dale, who looked at Susan, who looked at Ron. Nobody spoke. Finally, Linda said, "We'll provide the documents." "Thank you," Rebecca said, and sat down. I stayed standing. I have another point of order. The board recently authorized property inspections by private security. I'm requesting an immediate vote to rescind that authorization. That's not on the agenda, Linda said. I'm making a motion. Per Robert's rules, any homeowner can introduce a motion during a meeting. Tom Callahan stood. I second the motion. Linda's jaw tightened. Fine. Discussion. Helen Ortiz raised her hand. I got a visit from those security guys. They told me I had to let them inspect my backyard or they'd fine me. I'm a 72-year-old woman living alone. That's not okay. Jeff Marston stood. Same here. They came to my house, said my fence was non-compliant, and threatened to tow my truck. This isn't security. It's harassment. More hands went up. More voices. The room was turning, and Linda knew it. Enough, she said, voice sharp. We'll take a vote. All in favor of rescinding the security authorization. A forest of hands went up. I counted at least 40. Opposed. Linda, Dale, Susan, Ron. For hands. Motion passes, I said. Linda slammed her laptop shut. Fine. Meeting adjourned. Wait, I said. We're not done. Yes, we are. I have evidence of financial misconduct by this board. The room went dead silent. Linda stared at me. Excuse me. I pulled out the folder Jake had sent me, printouts of Apex contracts, Victor Kress's criminal record, Linda's history and other HOAs. I handed copies to Tom, Helen, and Jeff, and they started passing them around. Linda Mercer has a history of taking over HOA boards and funneling contracts to a company called Apex Community Solutions, owned by a convicted fraudster named Victor Kress. In every neighborhood she's done this. HOA fees have tripled and homeowners have been forced out. I have documentation showing she's setting up the same scam here. Linda stood, face pale. This is defamation. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, I said. I'll wait. She didn't move. Rebecca stood. Ms. Mercer, if you'd like to dispute these claims, I suggest you provide financial records showing where HOA funds have been spent over the last 8 months. Homeowners have a right to an audit. We're not discussing this here, Linda said. Then where? I asked. You've ignored emails, refused to provide documents, and hired fake security to intimidate residents. When exactly are we supposed to discuss it? Dale stood. You need to sit down, Marcus. Or what? He stepped toward me. Tom Callahan moved to intercept, but I held up a hand. Dale, if you touch me, I'll press charges. And unlike your fake security buddies, I've got 50 witnesses. Dale stopped. Linda grabbed her laptop and walked out. Dale, Susan, and Ron followed. The door slammed. The room erupted. People talking, shouting questions, demanding answers. Rebecca leaned over. You just detonated a bomb, she said. Good. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. That was beautiful, man. But I wasn't celebrating. Because I knew Linda wasn't done. She'd just lost control of the room, lost her leverage, lost her scam. People like that don't walk away quietly. They burn the house down on their way out. I drove home, checked the cameras. No white Explorer. I texted Sarah. Meeting went well. Linda's on the ropes. I'll call you tomorrow. She replied, be careful. I was careful. I locked every door, set the alarm, kept my phone on the nightstand. I didn't sleep much. At 3:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert, front door. I pulled up the camera feed. 2 men on the porch. Not buzzcut and goatee. Different guys. Bigger. One of them held a crowbar. I was downstairs in 10 seconds, phone in hand, dialing 911. The operator answered. Someone's trying to break into my house, I said, voice calm. For 28, Sycamore Drive, Meadowbrook Estates. 2 suspects, armed with a crowbar. Officers are on the way. Stay inside, stay on the line. I stayed on the line. I also grabbed the Glock 19 from my safe and chambered around. The men on the porch didn't know I was watching. One of them wedged the crowbar into the doorframe. The other one looked around, casual, like he was checking the weather. Then headlights swept the street. The men froze. A patrol car rolled up, lights flashing. They ran. The officers chased them on foot, caught one at the end of the block. The other disappeared into the greenbelt. I met the officers at my front door, showed them the camera footage. You know these guys? One officer asked. No, but I know who sent them. I explained the HOA situation, showed them Linda's emails, the fake security visits, the escalation. The officer took notes, but I could see the skepticism in his eyes. We'll file a report, he said. The guy we caught isn't talking. Without evidence linking him to your HOA, it's just attempted burglary. Check his phone. I guarantee he's got texts or calls from Linda Mercer or Victor Kress. We'll look into it. They left. I stood on my porch, looking at the crowbar marks on my door, and felt the last thread of patience snap. Linda wanted a war? She was about to get one. I called Jake at 4:30 a.m. He answered on the second ring, groggy but alert. Marcus, you okay? 2 guys just tried to break into my house. Cops caught one. I need you to find out who he is and who he's connected to. I'm on it. You think it's Linda? I know it is. I hung up and called Rebecca. She answered faster than Jake, which told me she'd been expecting this. Marcus, what happened? I told her. She listened, then said, you need to file for a restraining order. Today. Against who? Linda? I don't have proof she sent them. You have a pattern of harassment, documented threats, and an attempted break-in 12 hours after you publicly exposed her. A judge will connect the dots. Okay, set it up. I'll draft the petition. We'll file this afternoon. After I hung up, I sat in the dark living room and thought about Sarah. She was safe at her sister's, but for how long? If Linda was willing to send men to break into my house, what would she do next? I needed to end this. Fast. At 8 a.m., I drove to the county recorder's office and pulled every document related to Meadowbrook Estates HOA. Articles of incorporation, bylaws, amendments, financial filings. I spent 3 hours going through them, page by page. I found it in the 2022 financial filing. The HOA had collected $272,000 in fees that year. Operating expenses, landscaping, utilities, insurance, totaled $180,000. That left $92,000 in surplus. The filing showed $90,000 transferred to a reserve fund. But the reserve fund account number didn't match any of the HOA's bank accounts on file. I took a photo of the page, sent it to Jake. He called back in 10 minutes. That account belongs to a shell company called Meadowbrook Holdings LLC. Guess who owns it? Victor Kress. Bingo. Linda's been funneling HOA funds into Kress's company. That's embezzlement. Can you prove it? I can show the money trail. You need a forensic accountant to make it stick in court, but yeah, this is enough to get the DA interested. Send me everything. I drove to the district attorney's office and asked to speak to someone in the fraud division. They sent me to a deputy DA named Karen Liu, mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of person who'd seen every scam in the book. I laid it all out. The fake fines, the harassment, the fake security company, the embezzlement. I showed her Jake's findings, the financial documents, the camera footage of the break-in attempt. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she said, "This is a strong case. But HOA fraud is complicated. We need to audit the entire organization, interview board members, subpoena records. That takes time. How much time? Months. Maybe a year. I don't have a year. Linda's escalating. She sent men to break into my house. We'll prioritize it. But I can't make promises. I left the DA's office feeling like I'd just run into another wall. The system was too slow. Linda was too fast. I needed a different approach. That afternoon, I went to the Meadowbrook Estates Community Center and checked the schedule. The next board meeting was in 2 weeks. But there was something else on the calendar, a special election scheduled for 3 weeks out to vote on a proposed fee increase. Linda's fee increase, the one that would triple monthly dues and pave the way for Apex to take over management. I pulled out my phone and started texting every homeowner I had contact info for. Tom Callahan, Helen Ortiz, Jeff Marston, and a dozen others. I sent them Jake's findings, the financial documents, and a simple message. Linda Mercer has been embezzling HOA funds and plans to triple our fees to benefit her criminal partner. We can stop her, but only if we vote no on the fee increase and recall the entire board. Spread the word. Forward this to everyone you know in Meadowbrook. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. People asking questions, demanding details, sharing the message. By evening, half the neighborhood knew. Linda sent an email at 9 p.m. It has come to my attention that false and malicious rumors are being spread about the board. These claims are completely baseless and appear to be part of a coordinated harassment campaign by a disgruntled homeowner. The board is consulting with legal counsel and will take appropriate action to protect the community. I replied all. Linda, if the claims are false, provide financial records proving it. Homeowners are entitled to transparency. Refusing to provide records only makes you look guilty. She didn't respond. The next morning, Rebecca called. Restraining order hearing is set for Friday. Judge and Gwen, 10 a.m. What are our chances? Good, if the guy they arrested talks. I'm working on getting his phone records subpoenaed. Thanks, Rebecca. Marcus, be ready for Linda to fight dirty. Restraining orders go both ways. She might file one against you. Let her try. But Rebecca was right. That afternoon, I got served with a restraining order petition filed by Linda Mercer claiming I had threatened and harassed her at the HOA meeting and was creating a hostile environment. I called Rebecca. She filed first. Of course she did. Don't worry. We'll fight both in the same hearing. Friday came. I met Rebecca at the courthouse, and we walked into Judge Nguyen's courtroom. Linda was already there, sitting with a lawyer I didn't recognize, a guy in an expensive suit with slicked back hair and a Rolex. The hearing lasted 90 minutes. Linda's lawyer went first, painting me as a volatile ex-military individual with a history of aggression. He showed clips from the HOA meeting, edited to make me look angry and confrontational, and cited my refusal to comply with community standards. Rebecca tore him apart. She showed the full, unedited footage of the meeting, highlighting Linda's refusal to provide documents and the crowd's support for my motions. She presented the camera footage of the break-in attempt, the fake security visits, the towed car, the spray-painted door. She showed Jake's findings on Victor Kress and the embezzlement. Your Honor, Rebecca said, Ms. Mercer isn't the victim here. She's the perpetrator of a systematic harassment campaign designed to force Mr. Webb out of his home so she can continue defrauding the HOA. Her restraining order petition is retaliatory and baseless. Judge Nguyen looked at Linda. Ms. Mercer, can you provide evidence that Mr. Webb threatened you? Linda's lawyer stammered. Your Honor, his mere presence. That's not evidence. Petition denied. She turned to me. Mr. Webb, your petition is granted. Ms. Mercer is ordered to stay at least 100 yards away from you and your property. Violation will result in arrest. Linda's face went white. As we walked out of the courtroom, Rebecca said, that was a clean win. But Marcus, she's not going to stop. She's going to come at you harder. I know. What's your next move? I'm going to finish this. That night, I got a call from Jake. Marcus, the guy they arrested? His name is Kyle Brennan. Small-time enforcer, works for Victor Kress. His phone records show 6 calls to Kress in the 24 hours before the break-in, and 2 texts from a burner number that pinged off a tower near Linda's house. Can you tie the burner to Linda? Not directly, but the DA can. I'm sending everything to Karen Lou. Thanks, Jake. I hung up and looked at the calendar. The special election was in 10 days. 10 days to turn the neighborhood against Linda, vote down the fee increase, and recall the board. 10 days to end this. How would you expose Karen in public? I spent the next week going door to door. Tom, Helen, Jeff, and I split up the neighborhood, knocking on every door, handing out flyers with Jake's findings and a simple message. Vote no on the fee increase. Recall the board. Take back our community. Most people were supportive. A few slammed doors in our faces. One guy, Dale's buddy, a retired contractor named Rick, told me to get the hell off his property or he'd call the cops. I smiled and left. By the day of the election, we'd reached 80% of the neighborhood. Turnout was going to be high. Linda knew it. She sent a final email the night before the vote. Tomorrow, you have a choice. You can support a board that has worked tirelessly to maintain property values and community standards, or you can side with a man who has harassed, defamed, and threatened your neighbors. The choice is yours. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The next morning, I voted at 7 a.m. By noon, the line at the community center stretched around the block. By 5 p.m., when the polls closed, over 200 homeowners had voted. The results came in at 7 p.m. Fee increase. No, 87%. Board recall. Yes, 84%. Linda Mercer, Dale Pritchard, Susan Coe, and Ron Delgado were out. I stood in the community center, surrounded by neighbors, and felt something I hadn't felt in months, relief. Tom shook my hand. You did it, man. We did it. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't over. Because Linda Mercer was still out there. And people like her don't go quietly. Linda didn't show up to the community center that night. Neither did Dale, Susan, or Ron. The new interim board, elected on the spot by a voice vote, was made up of Tom Callahan, Helen Ortiz, and a retired accountant named Greg Park. Their first act was to hire a forensic accountant to audit the HOA's finances. Their second act was to fire Meadowbrook Security. I drove home around 9 p.m., feeling cautiously optimistic. Sarah called as I pulled into the driveway. I heard, she said. Marcus, you did it. We're not done yet. But yeah, we won the vote. When can I come home? Soon. I promise. I wanted to tell her tonight, but I couldn't. Not until I knew Linda was really gone. I checked the cameras before going inside. Nothing. No white Explorer, no suspicious cars. I armed the alarm, locked the doors, and collapsed on the couch. I slept for 4 hours. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert, backyard. I pulled up the camera feed. A figure in dark clothing was climbing over the back fence. I couldn't see a face, but the build was familiar. Slim, average height. Linda. I grabbed my phone, called 911, and moved toward the back door. The operator answered. Someone's in my backyard. For 28, Sycamore Drive. I have a restraining order against the suspect. Stay inside, sir. Officers are on the way. I stayed inside. But I also unlocked the back door and stood in the doorway, phone in hand, recording. Linda reached the patio, pulled something from her jacket, a can of spray paint, and started toward the sliding glass door. That's when she saw me. She froze. Hi, Linda, I said. She stared at me, face pale in the porch light. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she ran. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. The cameras had caught everything, and the police were 30 seconds out. She made it to the side gate before the patrol car pulled up, lights flashing. 2 officers intercepted her in the driveway. She tried to talk her way out. I'm the HOA president. There's been a misunderstanding, but I walked out with my phone, showed them the footage, and handed them a copy of the restraining order. They arrested her on the spot. As they put her in the back of the patrol car, she looked at me through the window. No anger, no defiance. Just exhaustion. I felt nothing. The officers took my statement, collected the spray paint can as evidence, and left. I stood in the driveway, watching the taillights disappear and finally let myself believe it. It was over. The next morning, I called Rebecca. Linda violated the restraining order. She's in custody. Good. That's a criminal charge now. She's looking at jail time, plus the DA's fraud case. She's done. Marcus. What about Victor Kress? The DA's building a case. With Linda in custody, she might flip on him to get a plea deal. Let me know if you need anything else. I will. Marcus, you should be proud. You took on a corrupt system and won. Thanks, Rebecca. I hung up and called Sarah. Come home. Really? Really? She came home that afternoon. We stood in the driveway, looking at the house, our house, and I felt something I hadn't felt since this whole nightmare started. Peace. Over the next 2 weeks, the pieces fell into place. Greg Park, the interim treasurer, completed the forensic audit. He found $230,000 in missing HOA funds, all funneled to Victor Kress's shell companies over 18 months. The DA filed embezzlement and fraud charges against Linda and Kress. Linda took a plea deal, 3 years in prison, full restitution, and testified against Kress. He got 7 years. Dale Pritchard, Susan Coe, and Ron Delgado weren't charged, but they resigned from the neighborhood in disgrace. Dale moved to Nevada. Susan and Ron stayed, but kept their heads down. The interim board hired a legitimate management company, rolled back the bogus fines, and returned the $850 towing fee to Sarah. They also updated the HOA governing documents to include term limits, financial transparency requirements, and a recall process. Tom Callahan was elected permanent president. Helen Ortiz became VP. Greg Park stayed on as treasurer. Meadowbrook Estates was healing. One afternoon in late August, I was in the garage when Tom knocked on the door. He was holding a small bronze plaque. The board voted on this, he said. We want to put it in the community center. I read the inscription. In recognition of Marcus Webb, whose courage and integrity protected our community from corruption. May we never forget the cost of silence. I didn't know what to say. You don't have to accept it, Tom said. But we wanted you to know what you did mattered. Thanks, Tom. He left. I stood there, holding the plaque, and thought about my dad's bronze eagle. I'd put it back on the mailbox the day after Linda was arrested. Sarah came out, saw the plaque, and smiled. You're a hero. I'm just a guy who didn't want to lose his house. You're more than that. Maybe. But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like someone who'd done what needed to be done and paid the cost. That night, Sarah and I sat on the back patio, watching the sun set over the neighborhood. The sprinklers were running. Kids were playing in the street. Somewhere, a dog barked. Normal. Do you think it's really over? Sarah asked. Yeah, I said. It's over. But even as I said it, I thought about Victor Kress sitting in a cell and Linda Mercer doing the same. I thought about the neighborhoods they destroyed before ours and the ones they might have destroyed after if we hadn't stopped them. I thought about the cost of silence. And I knew that somewhere, in some other subdivision, some other family was facing the same fight. I hoped they'd win. 6 months later, I got a letter. It was from a woman named Angela Torres, living in a town called Riverside Glen, 200 miles north. She'd read about the Meadowbrook case in a local news article. HOA president sentenced in embezzlement scheme, and tracked me down through Rebecca. Her letter was short. Mr. Webb, my HOA is doing the same thing yours did. Fake fines, harassment, threats. I don't know what to do. Can you help? I showed the letter to Sarah. She read it, then looked at me. You're going to help her, aren't you? Yeah. She smiled. Of course you are. I called Angela Torres that night. We talked for an hour. I walked her through everything, documentation, legal strategy, how to organize the neighborhood. I gave her Rebecca's number, Jake's number, and a list of resources. You can win this, I told her. But you have to be ready to fight. I'm ready, she said. I believed her. Because that's the thing about people like Linda Mercer and Victor Kress. They count on silence. They count on fear. They count on good people deciding it's easier to just pay the fine, move away, give up. But sometimes, someone doesn't give up. Sometimes, someone fights back. And when that happens, the whole house of cards falls. I hung up the phone, looked out at the quiet street, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. If you've dealt with an HOA nightmare, or know someone who has, share this story. Because the more people know how these scams work, the harder it is for people like Linda to get away with it. And if you're fighting your own battle right now, don't give up. Document everything. Find your allies. And remember, they're counting on you to stay silent. Don't. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment and let me know if this story hit close to home.